My boss tried to make me quit, so I took his job. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write one of these long, workplace revenge type stories. But here we are. If you've ever had a boss who seemed like they were playing some secret game of chess where you were the pawn they wanted off the board, then you'll probably understand exactly what I went through. Let me start by saying, I've always been the type of employee who keeps my head down, does my work, and lets results speak louder than politics. I'm not the loudest person in the room, but I know my craft, I deliver on deadlines. And I built a reputation over the years as someone reliable. That reputation, it turns out, was exactly what painted a target on my back. Or at least I worked, at a mid-sized company in a competitive industry. We weren't some flashy Silicon Valley startup with beanbags and kombucha on tap, but we weren't a boring old cubicle farm either. Think somewhere in between. Glass offices, decent perks, enough structure to feel corporate, but enough chaos to feel like every project was life or death. When I first joined, I was just happy to have landed a stable position. I was one of those people who thought if I worked hard enough, the system would reward me. And for a while, it seemed like that might actually be true. Then I met Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter was my direct manager, and on paper, he looked like the golden boy of the company. He had the resume stacked with achievements, the charm to make senior executives laugh in boardrooms, and the confidence of someone who thought they were untouchable. At first, I actually admired him. He seemed sharp, decisive, and willing to push the team toward ambitious goals. I thought, okay, this guy's tough, but he'll make me better. That illusion didn't last long. See, there's a difference between being tough and being manipulative. There's a difference between challenging your employees and deliberately setting them up to fail. And Mr. Carter, I learned pretty quickly, lived for the latter. It started small. A snide comment here, a dismissive look there. Once I stayed late working on a report he had asked for, only for him to forget that he'd asked me and scold me for wasting company resources on unnecessary busy work. Another time, I presented an idea during a team meeting. He brushed it off with a condescending, "That's not really aligned with our direction." 2 weeks later, he pitched the exact same idea to upper management, word for word, as if it were his own brainchild. And guess who got praised for being innovative? That was my first real taste of his style. Take credit for the wins, deflect blame for the losses, and make sure everyone around him looked a little less competent than him. At first, I brushed it off as me overthinking. Maybe that's just how corporate life worked. Maybe I was being too sensitive, but then the pattern became too obvious to ignore. One of his favorite tactics was assigning me impossible deadlines. "Can you pull together a full market analysis by tomorrow morning?" He'd say at 5:30 p.m., right as I was shutting down for the day. Or, "We need this 40-page client deck ready for Monday. Oh, and make sure the design team has everything too." This was usually said on Friday afternoon. Now, I'm no stranger to hard work, and I'm not afraid of late nights when it's necessary. But this wasn't necessity. This was intentional sabotage dressed up as urgency. And here's the kicker. Whenever I actually did pull it off, he'd take the credit in meetings. "Yeah, I pushed the team hard on this one," he'd say, patting himself on the back while presenting my work as though he'd created it from scratch. And when I couldn't hit his impossible deadlines, he'd throw me under the bus. "I'm not sure OP has the time management skills for this level of responsibility," he once said in front of a director. That one stung. But the worst part wasn't the workload. It was the way he used public humiliation as his weapon of choice. Team meetings were like his personal stage. If I made a minor mistake, a typo in a slide, a missed detail in a spreadsheet, he'd pounce on it and tear me down in front of everyone. "Seriously, OP? This is basic stuff," he'd sneer, shaking his head dramatically. "We can't afford sloppy work like this." The room would go silent. People would look down at their laptops, suddenly fascinated by their keyboards, praying not. Full story link below.